Feels like a museum.
Oh, no, it's much more than that. This is where we're going to start again. We've got a printing press. It'll be operational quite soon. We're going to teach people about the world they lost.
You worked so hard for that book. You sacrificed so much, so many men.
Help them start to rebuild it.
Now all those people who were too scared to even say your name, the downstairs tower. There's no one there to stop. You're feverish.
Shakespeare, Britannica, never a Bible. Well, not until now.
I have set before you copies of the letters. The letter of the king ran as follows. King Ptolemy sends greeting and salutation to the high priest Eleazar. Since there are many Jews settled in our realm who were carried off from Jerusalem by the Persians at the time of their power, and many more who came with my father into Egypt as captives, large numbers of these he placed in the army and paid them higher wages than usual. And when he had proved the loyalty of their leaders, he built fortresses and placed them in their charge that the native Egyptians might be intimidated by them. And I, when I ascended the throne, adopted a kindly attitude towards all my subjects, and more particularly to those who were citizens of yours. I have set at liberty more than 100,000 captives, paying their owners the appropriate market price for them. And if ever evil has been done to your people through the passions of the mob, I have made them reparation. The motive which prompted my action has been the desire to act piously and render up to the Supreme God a thank offering for maintaining my kingdom in peace and great glory in all the world. Moreover, those of your people who were in the prime of life I have drafted into my army, and those who were fit to be attached to my person and worthy of the confidence of the court, I have established in official positions. Now, since I am anxious to show my gratitude to these men and to the Jews throughout the world and to the generations yet to come, I have determined that your law shall be translated from the Hebrew tongue which is in use amongst you into the Greek language, that these books may be added to the other royal books in my library. It will be a kindness on your part and a reward for my zeal if you will select 6 elders from each of your tribes, men of noble life and skilled in your law and able to interpret it, that in questions of a dispute, we may be able to discover the verdict in which the majority agree, for the investigation is of the highest possible importance. I hope to win great renown by the accomplishment of this work. I have sent Andreas, the chief of my bodyguard, and Aristeas, men whom I hold in high esteem, to lay the matter before you and present you with 100 talents of silver, the first fruits of my offering for the temple and the sacrifices and other religious rites. If you will write to me concerning your wishes in these matters, you will confer a great favor upon me and afford me a new pledge of friendship, for all your wishes shall be carried out as speedily as possible. Farewell. To this letter, Eleazar replied appropriately as follows. Eleazar the high priest sends greetings to King Ptolemy his true. Chapter 7. The arrival of the envoys with the manuscript of the precious book and gifts. Preparations for a royal banquet. The host immediately upon being seated at the table entertains his guests with questions and answers. Some sage comments on sociology. And Eleazar, after offering the sacrifice, and selecting the envoys, and preparing many gifts for the king, dispatched us on our journey in great security. And when we reached Alexandria, the king was at once informed of our arrival. On our admission to the palace, Andreas and I warmly greeted the king and handed over to him the letter written by Eleazar. The king was very anxious to meet the envoys and gave orders that all the other officials should be dismissed and the envoys summoned to his presence at once. Now this exciting general surprise, for it is customary for those who come to seek an audience with the king on matters of importance to be admitted to his presence on the 5th day, while envoys from kings or very important cities with difficulty secure admission to the court in 30 days, but these men he counted worthy of greater honor, since he held their master in such high esteem, and so he immediately dismissed those whose presence he regarded as superfluous and continued walking about until they came in and he was able to welcome them. When they entered with the gifts which had been sent with them and the valuable parchments, on which the law was inscribed in golden Jewish characters, for the parchment was wonderfully prepared, and the connection between the pages had been so effected as to be invisible, the king as soon as he saw them began to ask them about the books. And when they had taken the rolls out of their coverings and unfolded the pages, the king stood still for a long time, and then making obeisance about 7 times, he said, I thank you, my friends, and I thank him that sent you still more, and most of all God, whose oracles these are. And when all the envoys and the others who were present as well shouted out at one time and with one voice, God save the king, he burst into tears of joy. For his exaltation of soul, and the sense of the overwhelming honor which had been paid him compelled him to weep over his good fortune. He commanded them to put the rolls back in their places, and then after saluting the men, said, It was right, men of God, that I should, first of all, pay my reverence to the books for the sake of which I summoned you here, and then when I had done that, to extend the right hand of friendship to you. It was for this reason that I did this first. I have enacted that this day, on which you arrived, shall be kept as a great day, and it will be celebrated annually throughout my lifetime. It happens also that it is the anniversary of my naval victory over Antigonus. Therefore I shall be glad to feast with you today. Everything that you may have occasion to use, he said, shall be prepared for you in a befitting manner, and for me also with you. After they had expressed their delight, he gave orders that the best quarters near the citadel should be assigned to them, and that preparations should be made for the banquet. Later Demetrius took the men, and passing along the sea wall, 7 stadia long, to the island, crossed the bridge and made for the northern districts of Pharos. There he assembled them in a house, which had been built upon the seashore, of great beauty, and in a secluded situation, and invited them to carry out the work of translation, since everything that they needed for the purpose was placed at their disposal. So they set to work comparing their several results and making them agree, and whatever they agreed upon was suitably copied out under the direction of Demetrius. And the session lasted until the 9th hour. After this, they were set free to minister to their physical needs. Everything they wanted was furnished for them on a lavish scale. In addition to this, Dorotheus made the same preparations for them daily as were made for the king himself, for thus he had been commanded by the king. In the early morning they appeared daily at the court, and after saluting the king went back to their own place. And as is the custom of all the Jews, they washed their hands in the sea and prayed to God, and then devoted themselves to reading and translating the particular passage upon which they were engaged. And I put the question to them, why it was that they washed their hands before they prayed. And they explained that it was a token that they had done no evil, for every form of activity is wrought by means of the hands, since in their noble and holy way they regard everything as a symbol of righteousness and truth. As I have already said, they met together daily in the place, which was delightful for its quiet and its brightness, and applied themselves to their task. And it so chanced that the work of translation was completed in 72 days, just as if this had been arranged of set purpose. When the work was completed, Demetrius collected together the Jewish population in the place where the translation had been made, and read it over to all, in the presence of the translators, who met with a great reception also from the people, because of the great benefits which they had conferred upon them. They bestowed warm praise upon Demetrius, too, and urged him to have the whole law transcribed and present a copy to their leaders. After the books had been read, the priests and the elders of the translators and the Jewish community and the leaders of the people stood up and said that since so excellent and sacred and accurate a translation had been made, it was only right that it should remain as it was and no alteration should be made.